I just quickly had a panic that I wasn't recording. G'day, welcome back to Ben and Ken Like Records. This is episode 5. The theme is Pump Up the Volume. Ken, what did you bring along today?
Well, today I have brought along 9 by Blink-182.
Nice.
It's a recent release. It's their most recent release. It came out in 2019. It's on Columbia. It's it's a good quality pop punk record. Released in 2019 on Columbia Records, and it was produced by John Feldman, who is the lead singer of Goldfinger.
Ah, there you go.
You don't hear of Goldfinger very much anymore,
No.
but I think he's now a producer. Yeah. It's their 8th studio album. It's called Number 9. Apparently they decided to count their demo, which was called Buddha, as their first release. So this is their 9th real release. Yeah.
Awesome.
What did you bring along for Pump Up the Volume?
I knew it was going to have to happen eventually, but I have brought OK Computer by Radiohead. So this didn't originally come out on vinyl. This edition came out to celebrate the 20 years. So a lot of my favorite albums, which fall in the late 90s, are celebrating their 20-year anniversaries. And this one was released in 1997 on the Parlophone label. And then the 2017 re-release with this ridiculous packaging that we'll get to is still one of my favorite albums to crank on 11.
Yeah. That's the OKNOTOK version?
OKNOTOK version. That's correct.
I have a copy of it as well. I love it.
Yes, yeah. And so the producer on the album is Nigel Godrich, who has worked on a lot of the Radiohead's albums, but obviously Radiohead are very deeply involved in the production process. It's their 3rd studio album. So some people don't know that Pablo's Honey was their first Radiohead album. And then you've got The Bends, OK Computer, and then Kid A, which is, just so you know, the bookend. So, yeah.
The best album of all time.
You know what? And yeah, it's interesting because I was thinking Kid A is up there, but I still feel in terms of the point in time and my emotional connection, OK Computer just pips it at the post.
Oh, wow. Controversial.
It is.
So I'll tell you a little bit about why I selected this album and a little bit about it.
Yeah.
This album for me answers the question of what happens when a juvenile, very silly pop punk band decides to grow up. And I've been a fan of Blink-182 for a long time. It's all their big singles. They're great. They're very silly. They're fun. I have a live recording of theirs, which is it's actually very difficult to listen to because all the talk in between songs, all the banter, is all fart jokes and swearing. It actually makes it a lot less fun to listen to. This album is the 2nd album with Matt Skiba. He was the singer for Alkaline Trio.
Okay.
And Tom DeLonge left their previous album, it's called California. Partway through recording that, Tom DeLonge was doing a lot of side projects, ran out of time, and I think maybe just ran out of love for the band. So they replaced him with Matt Skiba. So the California album is an old Blink-182 album with a replacement guy. This album, so 9, it has a different feel to it. This is definitely written with him as a major part of the band. You can hear his influence. And Alkaline Trio were always a little bit more serious from the get-go. Still pop punk, but a little bit more serious than Blink-182, and that comes across.
And Ken, I don't have a lot of knowledge about that genre that Blink-182 fall into, but I do know Alkaline Trio and also Goldfinger are kind of part of that, landscape. So they're all familiar to me.
Yeah. So yeah, and this really, it's an album that should be up loud, and it's really finely crafted. You wouldn't expect a pop punk album to be finely crafted, but this one is from start to finish. It's a good listen. Yeah, there are definite standouts in there, but it's a good listen from start to finish.
So
So
what is the standout track then? Because you're almost leading into that.
yeah, so there's a couple of singles that came out that were pretty big. So that was Happy Days and Darkside. They were the big singles that came out of it. But tracks like Heaven and Pin the Grenade are like, maybe we could listen to a couple of snippets of those songs. Now they're great rockin' punky songs. Yeah, so the singles are spread throughout the album, and there's these other great album tracks that underpin them all the way through. So there's not that many dips in the album. It's like straight ahead, yeah, pop punk all the way through. And I think even the design of that really looks like that. It's turned up. The volume is turned way up on this album. So tell me about standout tracks on. This is going to be, I think this is going to be controversial because this is such a much loved album. So what are some of the standout tracks on OK Computer, the OKNOTOK version?
Yeah. So just to give people a bit of a backstory of how this album is different from the original, it has all of the singles the B-sides that were released on the singles. When OK Computer released Paranoid Android, Karma Police was the other single, and I think was No Surprises. Yeah, No Surprises, I think, was a single as well. So the tail end of the album, tracks 13 to 23 are not from the original album. So there's a lot. This is very much the souvenir fan version. The standout tracks for me are here we go. I'm almost wanting to look at your face while I say it. I do like Paranoid Android. I feel like that is just a masterpiece. It's almost like the Radiohead roller coaster that Bohemian Rhapsody takes you on. Like it goes from takes you to lots of different places, has a lot of different moods, and it's just really powerful. And it's not radio friendly, so it is really quite. It's like a middle finger to this is our single, but it's not a single. Like, so to play it on radio, you really have to have some great people programming and allowing that song to be on your playlist. I do like No Surprises. It's very melancholy. It's almost peak Tom York,
Mm.
his persona and his kind of writing style. But I also like Electioneering as a
Oh,
song.
yeah.
There's something like for songs that embody that pump up the volume, Electioneering for me is just quite anthemic. The guitar, Johnny Greenwood guitar playing is like superb. There's a really kick-ass, I'm pretty sure it's a cowbell um, that
Yeah.
is in it, and it is a great, great song. And I want to almost launch into my little tidbit, but I saw them play the OK Computer tour at Festival Hall in Brisbane. Big Heavy Stuff. Sorry.
So jealous.
Yeah. Big Heavy Stuff supported, and I was sitting in a stall looking over Radiohead, and it was a smallish venue, not like the bigger stadiums they would have played, but to see it live as well and to see it done so perfectly. This is a band at its peak. So, I'm questioning whether Kid A is the album that is also shows them at their peak, because I feel like live, not that I saw them playing Kid A live, but I feel just every note was perfect. Like the electricity of seeing them live and loud, it really was just it had to be a companion piece to the album.
So I know I'm quite a big Radiohead fan. I think actually I've got a Radiohead album up here.
Haha.
Got
Oh, nice. Comlike, yeah.
It's a Japanese compilation. The song "Lift," I find it very difficult to understand why that wasn't included as part of the album. It's such a great song. I guess maybe stylistically it fits. It doesn't quite fit with the rest of OK Computer. It's a bit more like the Bends, but that's actually the song that I come back to most often out of the new set of songs off the OK Not OK group.
For me, it's I Promise.
Oh yeah, that's a
I
great
think that
song.
was that kind of song that everyone wanted to hear on a release, and they'd play at their concerts, but it was never ever, there. So I feel that again, that could have easily maybe been, but this is the beauty of, when you go into a studio, you work with a producer, you will have many tracks. And like any art, like, I work as a video editor some of the time. So editing and curation, which you are, really accustomed to, is the art of leaving things out and going, what is the most cohesive piece that we're going to present? And we have to kill our darlings. So, that's a major piece of editing as a writer or an artist or a video producer or as a musician.
I know Radiohead are very good at that too. They don't seem to have a problem omitting excellent work. And they also I know they work on songs for many years before they get released. My favorite track from Radiohead is True Love Waits.
Yes.
And it used to be played in live shows, and everyone called for it for years. And eventually a live version came out on I Might Be Wrong. And then they re-recorded it. They did a brand new version for A Moonshack Pool. And that's how that's the final track on A Moonshack Pool.
Which is a great album.
Yeah, it is. It's a very different version though. It's slowed right down, and it is very melancholy. I think that song has been voted the most depressing song ever. I don't think it's depressing, but this is a conversation for another time because it's not even on the albums we're talking
about. Yeah. And I just wanted to add that, 1997, people do talk about the late 90s as really pivotal points for albums, the release. So just to give you an idea of what albums were released in 1997, along with OK Computer: The Verve, Urban Hymns; Spiritualized, Ladies and Gentlemen, We're Floating in Outer Space; Blur, their self-titled album with Beetlebum and Song 2 on it; Mogwai, Young Team, which I love; and Chemical Brothers, Dig Your Own Hole. So, some commentators have said that OK Computer was a signaling of Britpop moving into more atmospheric and melancholic kind of releases or work. Whereas, you've got your Wonderwalls and your Blur songs before Song 2. Well, actually, Song 2 was still up, but maybe Beetlebum was more the down tempo, melancholy, depressing. This is really, really taking it into new places, and people relate this album to like Pink Floyd, because it's kind of got all of those moods and atmosphere and the production values. Like, this is a headphone masterpiece. You need to listen to it to get the sonic brilliance of all the layers. Yeah.
Just sort of like a return of the concept album, wasn't it?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. And the concept here being, it's a point in time reflection on the status quo of 21st century,
Yeah.
the just all our hang-ups with technology and consumerism and capitalism. And yeah, it's that kind of forms a lot of their subject matter in the Bends, but also then Kid A.
Speaking of subject matter for OK Computer, have you ever read The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy?
I've tried. I just have never been able to make it's I find sci-fi fantasy kind of stuff a little bit hard.
Well, the link between OK Computer and that series of books slash radio shows slash movies is extraordinary.
Okay.
Yeah, there's lots of references, lots and lots of references
Wow.
to Hitchhikers in OK Computer, which is part of the reason I connected with the album at first, because I'm a fan of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Okay.
Even the title OK Computer, there's a Marvin, the paranoid android. So there's a character, Marvin is referred to as the paranoid android. He's eternal. He lives forever. So he's quite depressed with everything because he knows exactly what's going to happen. At one point, a spaceship's captain, is repeatedly saying, "Okay, computer, okay, computer, okay, computer." Like just constantly, he repeats that over and over at one section of in the 80s TV show. Yeah. So there's a lot of different connections with the idea of the end of the universe, and not being a time but being a place. Yeah. So all of those sort of ideas, all knowledge being computed by a single point, hidden messages, all those sorts of things they're all interrelated. The two things. I would urge you to give Hitchhikers one more crack.
I won't run away no more. I promise.
It is like, we're talking about pump up the volume. It's got that neon light on the front. It's a very loud cover. It's a gatefold. So it's got the band logo on the inside, again with that neon idea and the rainbow. And it's got just a slipcase in here, and it also comes with a lyric sheet, which not all albums do anymore, but I love a lyric sheet in an album. I think it's a great extra.
Great. And who was the artist?
Couldn't tell you. Credits. Art direction is Chris Feldman. There's just a bunch of different designers listed in the credits. I really think it was a studio release where they get on board and the band just says, "I want something like this," and the studio. I don't think it's really artistically driven, and I think the music just carries the whole album. The design, even though design is quite in your face, it's not super complex. It's a very simple idea. Yeah.
And I would say their logo is quite iconic. So really, anything which is their logo is kind of emoji like.
It is.
And Acid House kind of like.
Yeah, it's emoji and emo at the same time.
Yeah.
It is very. It obviously plays on a little bit of the Nirvana image.
Yeah.
It's like I don't think they're really thinking of themselves as the new Nirvana, but
no.
I think, yeah, they're well branded.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's become, even that typeface has become quite a brand for 1986.
Yeah.
She don't have the time of day, and I wait 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 and I wait.
Now, this is, whereas my selection has, I think, a very run-of-the-mill kind of production to it. You know, it's the music that carries it. The artwork and the design of OK Computer is it's a long story.
Yeah. And, you know, that's why I have to restrain myself. And I know we are very guilty, both of us, of waffling. So I'm going to try and be as quick as possible. But, you know, for the release, this artwork works so much better in the 12-inch form. You know, in the CD release, you want to look at the detail because it is quite detailed. So the artist that they have worked with for such a long time is Stanley Donwood, and he does illustration. This kind of artwork is very layered collage, and Stanley Donwood is a fine artist, but also is inspired by popular culture, and I suppose the more depressing, more banal popular culture that really feeds our mass anxiety. The Lost Child, I love that little kind of, you know, there's a lot of, there's iconography, which they've used across the single releases. But this is like a gatefold, but then it's like, what do we even call this? It's like, it's quite magnificent.
It is. It's almost a book.
Yeah. And it's got no less than, it's got 3 albums. It probably would have fit on 2 had they not released those additional tracks. But just to have this artwork, I mean, this is just, again, that banal, you are our target market. There's like some 3D bar graphs layered with, you know, crash test dummy automotive didactics and diagrams, and just the layering. I love it. And then, you know, this is peak Stanley Donwood, the photographs with almost the pedestrian crossing kind of iconography, the family, but it's just all very haunting, the scribble kind of style over it. Almost like redacted documents where you're taking away things.
There's a video online, we should link it here.
Yeah.
Of Stanley Donwood talking about the process for this album. How they set themselves a rule that they weren't allowed to delete anything.
Okay.
So everything was covered up. So there's a little clip of the digital design happening in fast forward of the front of the album where the X is. So, yep, on that side there. So there was an image put down there that he didn't like, but he couldn't delete it or backtrack. So he just stuck something over the top of it and just said, no. Yeah, it's an amazing video. We should link it underneath. That idea of not deleting extends further than OK Computer as well. I think maybe the best example of that is on Amnesiac. There's a song title called Pull Revolving Doors, but it has a typo. So it's called Pulk/Pull Revolving Doors.
Nice.
And they just leave the mistakes in there, which I think is it's a bold design choice in a world where deleting Control-Z is so quick and easy. It is a bold choice to say I'm not going to delete anything.
And just my tidbit I'd want to add, while we're talking about not deleting things, Ed O'Brien apparently says that 80% of the album was recorded live. So in the age of Pro Tools and being able to drop in and edit, you know, or on the more extreme end, using auto-tune to correct a voice to make it actually in tune, you know, to learn that they did a lot of stuff on the album live, that just speaks to the discipline of a band that will workshop a song for years before laying it on tape. But also it speaks to that aesthetic of, you know, we are Look us now in 2021. We're super curated. We have filters. We have Instagram filters. We have blessed life hashtags. Everything is a facade, which ties into consumer culture and the idea of what is perfect. And we are a product. And we are a product, Radiohead would more see it as we are a product that's being exploited, for profit. So I think for an album like this in 1997, to be talking about this type of stuff and for the album artwork to also be embodying this, I feel like this is why they are such important kind of musicians, rock musicians, if you want to put them in that category, across time.
Yeah. It is a real package, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And it definitely transcends the CD version.
Yeah. It's not just the music. It's everything. It all adds together. Which is funny because, again, my selection is the opposite. It's the music that carries everything. And the packaging is almost secondary.
Yeah. Are there any tidbits of information that you'd like to add about the Blink-182 album?
Not really. It's just a rad album. I bought this on a hunch. I'd heard the singles and I was in a record store and I thought, you know what? I think I'm going to take a punt on it.
Where do you hear the singles for Blink-182 though?
YouTube.
Okay, see, that's really interesting because I listen more to streaming, and we all know what I'm talking about, but I don't tend to get my music tips from YouTube. So that I find that interesting, but maybe I should explore that a bit more.
Well, it was actually the first one that I heard was Darkside, because the film clip for Darkside is based on current memes and dances. So it's got, like 50 kids flossing.
Okay.
And it goes from room to room, all doing very current dances that will be out of fashion in the next, 4 weeks. So, and that came up on a YouTube feed of mine, and I heard it and went, oh, wow, Blink-182. And then I thought, that's not the guy in Blink-182 that I know. So then I looked into it, found it in a record store and thought, I'll give it a go. Yeah, like I said, I'm very glad I did. I play it very regularly, actually.
Yeah. Well, I feel like I don't need to say anything more about OK Computer. If you haven't listened to it, you need to listen to it in its entirety. You can't isolate the albums. For me, they really are, again, I always come back to this, that it is an album experience. You need to listen from start to finish, all in one go, and just let it wash over you and crank it to 11. It's powerful rock.
Yeah, pump up the volume. I hope everybody out there gets a little bit of pop punk and a little bit of esoteric experimental British rock. We hope you enjoyed episode 5 of Ben and Ken Like Records, Pump Up the Volume. Make sure that you like and subscribe to get all of our updates. See you next time.